I'm Courtney Flynn, 32 years old, an IT specialist living in Reno, Nevada, someone who spent her entire adulthood building an independent life. That evening, in my quiet little apartment, my phone lit up with a text from my brother. "I need a new house. Can you cosign with me?" I scoffed. Cosign for him? For the guy who's never paid a bill on time, drowning in debt and blaming everyone else? I typed back just 2 words, "Keep dreaming." Then hit send, a smirk curling at the corner of my lips. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. My mom's message appeared, all in capital letters, like she was shouting through the screen, "If you refuse, then get out of this house." I wasn't afraid, but the feeling of betrayal tightened in my chest. Did they really think they could pressure me into sacrificing my financial security just to enable my brother's recklessness? Not a chance. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling, heart thudding. This wasn't the first time they'd tried to box me in. Last time, it was the essential laptop he bought on my credit card and never paid back. I'd learned my lesson. I wasn't the naive girl I once was. That night, I called the bank, my voice unnervingly calm, and cut off the joint account, the last financial tie between us. When the agent confirmed it, I exhaled, feeling like I'd just taken my life back. Tomorrow, they'd wake up to nothing but the consequences of their own choices. If your family tried to pressure you into sacrificing for someone else, would you give in or stand your ground? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Wednesday morning, notifications flooded my phone. I woke up in my Reno apartment, still buzzing from last night's decision to cut off the joint bank account. My screen was a battlefield, 40 texts and missed calls from Shane, Mom, and a swarm of relatives I hadn't heard from in ages. Shane's messages were relentless, starting with a smug, "You're making a huge mistake," and spiraling into, "You'll destroy my future if you don't help." Mom's texts piled on, her words sharp, "How dare you turn your back on family?" I could feel my pulse quickening, not out of guilt, but raw frustration. They thought they could corner me into signing away my financial stability for Shane's pipe dream. I swiped the notifications away, refusing to let their noise pull me in. The audacity took me back to a moment I'd tried to bury. A couple of years ago, Shane had sweet-talked me into letting him use my credit card for a $3,000 laptop, swearing it was for a game-changing freelance gig. The gig never happened, and I was left footing the bill while he shrugged it off, claiming he'd pay me back someday. Someday never came. The memory burned, sharpening my resolve to stand my ground this time. I wasn't that naive pushover anymore. At my desk in the software company's open plan office, I sipped my coffee, trying to focus on code, but my mind kept drifting to Shane's entitlement. How did he even think he could afford a house? Around noon, my colleague Jared waved me over during a break. "You need to see this," he said, his tone a mix of amusement and disbelief. He pulled up Instagram on his phone, and there was Shane, posing in front of a sleek, modern house, all glass and sharp angles, with the caption, "Dream Home. Coming soon." Big things happening. My jaw dropped. No job, no savings, yet he was out here acting like a real estate tycoon. I let out a bitter laugh, the kind that catches in your throat. Jared raised an eyebrow. "He's got some nerve," he said, shaking his head. "You okay?" I nodded, grateful for his concern. But inside, I was seething. Shane was banking on me caving, using social media to sell a fantasy he couldn't fund. That afternoon, I decided to send him a message of my own, not with words, but actions. Shane had been leeching off my Spotify account for years, racking up playlists while contributing nothing. I logged into the app from my laptop, my fingers moving with purpose. I changed the password, locking him out mid-song, and couldn't help but grin at the thought of his confusion. Then I opened WhatsApp and typed, "Time to pay for your own music, big shot." His response came in seconds. A flood of angry emojis followed by a rant. "You're so petty. This is why nobody likes you." I screenshot it, tucking it away as potential ammo. His tantrum only proved I'd hit a nerve. Sitting back, I thought about how I'd ended up in this mess. When Mom pushed me to open that joint bank account with her and Shane, I was younger, desperate to keep the family peace. It was pitched as a safety net for emergencies. But Shane treated it like his personal piggy bank, draining it for random expenses, while Mom turned a blind eye, always cooing about his potential. I should have seen the red flags, but I was too caught up in playing the good daughter. Closing that account last night felt like cutting a chain. Still, those 40 notifications were a warning. This wasn't over. Shane's next move would be uglier, and I needed to stay one step ahead. Friday afternoon, I was at my desk in the Reno software company, wrapping up a project, when my phone buzzed. Mom's voice came through, syrupy and pleading. "Courtney, please make peace with your brother. Shane's so stressed, he needs you." The fake concern in her tone made my skin crawl. She wasn't worried about me, she never was. This was about Shane, always Shane, and his endless crises that somehow became my problem. I deleted the voicemail, my fingers trembling with irritation. Did she really think I'd cave after his stunt on social media, flaunting a house he couldn't afford? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, refusing to let her guilt trip sink in. Her words dragged up a memory I'd buried deep. A year ago, I'd saved up for a high-end camera, hoping to pick up photography as a side hustle. When Shane asked to borrow a few $100, I said no, tired of his empty promises. He didn't take it well. I came home one day to find my camera smashed on the kitchen floor, lens cracked, pieces scattered like confetti. Shane stood there, smirking, claiming it was an accident. I knew better, he'd done it out of spite, punishing me for setting boundaries. The cost to replace it was $2,000, money I never got back. That moment replayed in my head, fueling my anger. He hadn't changed, and Mom's voicemail proved she'd keep enabling him. I pushed the memory aside and grabbed my phone, a nagging feeling pulling at me. Shane's desperation was escalating, and I didn't trust him to stop at angry texts. I logged into my bank's app, my heart pounding as I checked the account I'd cut off 2 days ago. Sure enough, there it was, a notification of a failed withdrawal attempt from Shane's device, flagged as suspicious. He'd tried to pull out $500, probably thinking I wouldn't notice. My blood boiled. Did he really think he could sneak past me? I double-checked the account locks, ensuring he was fully blocked, and exhaled sharply. This wasn't just entitlement, it was a violation, and I wasn't letting it slide. That evening, I decided to hit back harder. Shane had been on my health insurance plan, a holdover from when Mom insisted we share family resources. It was another one of her traps, leaving me to cover his premiums while he racked up claims for his reckless lifestyle. I called the insurance company from my apartment, pacing as I navigated their automated system. When I finally reached an agent, I was calm but firm. Remove Shane Dixon from my policy, effective immediately. The agent confirmed it would take effect within 24 hours. As I hung up, a wave of relief washed over me. For the first time, I felt like I was breaking free from their grip. Shane would have to figure out his own coverage, and Mom's tears wouldn't change my mind. Sunday night, Tara's text lit up my screen. I was sprawled on my couch in my Reno apartment, scrolling aimlessly, when my cousin Tara's message popped up, "Shane's bad-mouthing you to everyone." My stomach tightened as I opened the chat. She said Shane had been calling relatives, spinning a tale that I was jealous of his dream to buy a house, painting me as the bitter sister trying to sabotage his success. The nerve of him. After everything, his demands, his lies on social media, his attempt to siphon my bank account, he was out here playing the victim. I typed back a quick, "Thanks for the heads up," my fingers shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. Tara's warning confirmed what I'd suspected. Shane wasn't just desperate. He was orchestrating a smear campaign to pressure me. I set my phone down, my mind racing. His lies weren't new, but this felt different, calculated, personal. It reminded me of how he'd always twisted things to make me the bad guy, like when he'd convinced Mom I was too controlling for refusing to fund his get-rich-quick schemes. This time, he was dragging the whole family into his narrative. I couldn't let it slide. I grabbed my laptop, a sinking feeling in my gut, and checked my email for any alerts I might have missed. That's when I saw it, a security notification from my bank, timestamped that morning. Shane had tried to log into my account, triggering a two-factor authentication block. The alert showed multiple failed attempts from an unfamiliar device, each one flagged as high risk. My heart pounded. He wasn't just whining, he was trying to break into my finances. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This was a new low, even for Shane. I immediately reset my passwords, enabled extra security layers, and emailed my bank to report the breach attempt. The thought of him digging into my accounts made my skin crawl. It wasn't just about money, it was about control. He wanted to force my hand, to make me feel trapped. I wasn't going to let him. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, and realized I needed to escalate my defense. Shane was living rent-free in a small apartment I owned in Reno, a property I'd let him use to get back on his feet. Big mistake. He treated it like a free hotel, never paying a cent while I covered taxes and maintenance. Enough was enough. Monday morning, I called the property management company from my office. My voice was steady as I spoke to the agent. I need Shane Dixon out of my rental unit within 5 days. The agent hesitated, citing tenant rights, but I cut in, explaining I was the owner and Shane had no lease agreement. I'd been naive to let him stay so long, thinking he'd eventually step up. The agent agreed to serve an eviction notice, warning Shane to vacate by Saturday or face legal action. I hung up, a grim satisfaction settling in. This wasn't just about reclaiming my property, it was about drawing a line. Shane needed to learn that his actions had consequences, and I wasn't his personal ATM anymore. That evening, my phone buzzed with a WhatsApp message from Shane. His words were venomous. "You're kicking me out? You're heartless. You'll pay for this." I read it twice, my jaw clenched. He wasn't even pretending to be reasonable anymore, just pure rage at being cut off. I screenshot the message, saving it alongside his earlier rants. If he wanted to play dirty, I'd have evidence ready. His threats didn't scare me, they just proved I was right to act. I wasn't dealing with a misguided brother anymore. This was someone willing to cross any line to get what he wanted. I couldn't afford to underestimate him again. Tuesday morning, I knew I needed to protect myself further. Shane's hacking attempt and his eviction tantrum showed he wouldn't stop easily. I called a lawyer I'd worked with on a contract dispute last year, a no-nonsense woman named Lisa, who specialized in property and financial disputes. I laid out everything: Shane's demands, the bank hack attempt, the apartment situation, and his threatening messages. Lisa listened quietly, then said, "You've got a strong case. Let's draft a cease and desist letter and prepare for any retaliation." We spent an hour on the phone, mapping out steps to secure my assets, freezing my credit, monitoring my accounts, and documenting every interaction with Shane. I felt a surge of empowerment. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was building a fortress around my life. Tuesday dawned, and I found a handwritten note under my door. I'd barely slept, still wired from Shane's latest threats, when I spotted the crumpled paper on my Reno apartment's floor. Scrawled in his messy handwriting was a single line: "You'll regret this." My heart skipped a beat, not from fear, but from the sheer gall. He'd gone from begging to bullying to now sneaking around my home. I grabbed my phone and opened the security camera app I'd installed months ago after a neighbor's break-in. The footage loaded, grainy but clear enough. There was Mom, Barbara, at 3 a.m., slipping the spare key from under my doormat and passing it to Shane. My stomach churned. This wasn't just Shane's doing, Mom was in on it, enabling his every move. I saved the clip, my hand steady despite the betrayal cutting through me. I wasn't taking chances with my safety. By 8 a.m., I called a locksmith, my voice firm. "I need every lock changed today, and I want the best deadbolts you've got." The locksmith arrived by noon, swapping out the old locks for heavy-duty ones that felt like a fortress. I also signed up for a full security system, motion sensors, doorbell camera, the works. The technician walked me through the setup, showing how alerts would ping my phone if anyone got too close. As he drilled into the door frame, I felt a strange calm settle in. Shane and Mom thought they could intimidate me, but I was locking them out, literally and figuratively. The $500 bill stung, but it was worth every penny to know they couldn't sneak in again. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from my Aunt Debbie. She'd always been the quiet one in the family, never picking sides, but her text was clear: "I'm proud of you for standing up to Shane. He's been crying to Barbara, saying you're ruining his life." I smirked, picturing Shane's crocodile tears as he tried to win Mom's sympathy. Debbie added that he'd been whining at a family lunch, claiming I was out to get him for no reason. Her support felt like a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone was buying his act. I replied, "Thanks, Debbie. Means a lot." Her message gave me a boost, but it also confirmed Shane was doubling down on his victim card, trying to sway the family against me. That evening, I was at my desk, catching up on work emails, when Jared messaged me. He had been a solid friend at the office, and now he had something big. "Check your inbox." Shane sent this to half the family. I opened my email, and there it was, a forwarded message from Shane, sent to our relatives, laying out his plan to guilt me into co-signing his house loan. The email was a masterclass in manipulation. "Courtney's always been jealous of me, but I didn't think she'd stoop this low. I just need a little help to start my life." He admitted to pressuring me, framing it as encouragement for my support. My jaw dropped at his audacity. He wasn't just lying, he was confessing his scheme, thinking it would win him sympathy. I saved the email, my mind racing with how I'd use it. This wasn't just evidence, it was a weapon. A week later, I parked outside Wayne's house in Reno. I wasn't invited to the family barbecue, but I wasn't about to let Shane spin his lies unchallenged. My Uncle Wayne's place was a hub for family gatherings, and I knew Shane would be there, milking sympathy from relatives. I stepped out of my car, gripping my phone, the email from Shane, his confession of manipulation, ready to go. The air was thick with tension as I walked into the backyard, where tables were laden with food and relatives milled around, chatting. Shane stood in the center, holding court, his voice loud and confident as he bragged about his dream house deal, claiming it was just days away from closing. I caught snippets of his story, a sleek, modern home, his big break, all thanks to his hard work. My blood boiled. He was still selling a fantasy, one he'd tried to force me to fund. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I lingered near the edge of the crowd, watching him work the room. Relatives nodded along, some looking impressed, others skeptical. I spotted Mom, Barbara, hovering nearby, beaming with pride as Shane spun his tale. The hypocrisy stung. She'd enabled his schemes, even helped him sneak a key to my apartment. I tightened my grip on my phone, feeling the weight of every boundary they'd crossed. Then I noticed Wayne, my uncle, leaning against a picnic table, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He hadn't bought into Shane's act, and that gave me a spark of hope. I'd come prepared to expose the truth, and now was the moment. I connected my phone to the Bluetooth speaker on the table, the one blasting music for the barbecue. With a quick tap, I opened Shane's email, the one Jared had forwarded, where Shane admitted to manipulating me for the house loan. I turned up the volume and read aloud, my voice steady but sharp. "Courtney's always been jealous of me, but I didn't think she'd stoop this low. I just need a little help to start my life." The music cut out and every head turned. I kept going, quoting his own words. I encouraged her to co-sign because I know she can afford it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Faces froze, some in shock, others in disgust. Shane's confident smirk vanished, replaced by a flush of panic. I locked eyes with him, letting the silence hang heavy. The email was his own confession, and I just broadcast it to the entire family. Wayne stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Shane, if this house is such a sure thing, why haven't you paid for it yourself?" The question hit like a punch. Shane stammered, mumbling about paperwork delays and bank issues, but his excuses fell flat. Relatives started murmuring, their eyes darting between him and me. One cousin shook her head. Another whispered to her husband. Wayne pressed harder. "You're asking your sister to risk her savings for you, but you can't even cover your own bills." Shane's face reddened, and he snapped, "This isn't about that." But it was. Everyone could see it now. His lies, his entitlement, all laid bare. I stood there, heart pounding, but not from fear. For the first time, I felt in control. Mom tried to jump in, her voice shrill. "Courtney's twisting everything. Shane just needs a chance." But her defense sounded desperate, and the relatives' stares turned cold. A few turned away, shaking their heads, while others exchanged knowing glances. Shane, cornered, grabbed his jacket and stormed off, shoving past a chair that clattered to the ground. Mom followed, still muttering excuses. But the damage was done. The family's perception had shifted. I wasn't the villain anymore. I didn't need to say another word. I disconnected my phone from the speaker, the music resuming like nothing had happened, but the air felt different, lighter. I'd exposed Shane's game, and the truth had hit harder than any argument could. I left the barbecue shortly after, my steps steady as I walked back to my car. For the first time in months, I felt free from Shane's demands, Mom's guilt trips, and the family's pressure. I'd drawn my line, and they'd seen it. Driving away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, the glow of Wayne's backyard fading. I'd walked into that barbecue uninvited, but I'd left with my head high, knowing I'd taken back my power. Shane's schemes were unraveling, and I was ready for whatever came next. Monday night, Shane texted from a new number. I was in my Reno apartment, winding down after a long day, when my phone lit up with an unknown contact. This isn't over. My pulse quickened, not out of fear, but exasperation. Shane had been blocked on every platform, yet here he was, slinking back like a roach. I opened my security app, a habit now after his last stunt with the spare key. The footage from my new doorbell camera loaded, and there he was, Shane, late Sunday night, fumbling with a key at my front door, his face twisted in frustration as the new locks held firm. My jaw tightened. He wasn't just threatening me, he was trying to invade my space again. I saved the clip, my resolve hardening. This was proof he wouldn't stop. And I wasn't backing down. I'd had enough of his games, especially with the rental apartment I'd let him crash in for far too long. Tuesday morning, I called my real estate agent from my office. My voice steady. Put the Reno rental on the market. Fast track it. The apartment, a modest one-bedroom I'd bought as an investment, was a weight I no longer wanted. Shane had treated it like his personal playground, never paying a dime, while I covered taxes and repairs. The agent confirmed a buyer was already interested, offering $60,000 above asking price. I agreed to the sale, my heart racing with a mix of relief and triumph. The profit, nearly $100,000 after fees, was mine to keep. Shane was out, left to scramble for a new place, and I felt no guilt. He'd made his bed, and I wasn't his safety net anymore. That afternoon, Tara texted me from her lunch break. Shane's house deal fell through. She wrote, "Bank rejected his loan. His credit's a mess." I leaned back in my chair, a bitter smile forming. Shane's dream house was crumbling, just as I'd predicted. Tara said he'd gone to the bank, cocky as ever, only to fail the credit check spectacularly. His score was tanked by unpaid bills and maxed-out cards, none of which surprised me. She added that he'd been crashing on a friend's couch, whining about how I'd ruined his plans. I typed back, "Good. He dug his own grave." Tara's reply was a string of laughing emojis, and I felt a rare moment of camaraderie. Shane's lies had caught up with him, and the family was starting to see through his facade. By evening, my phone pinged again. This time, Mom. Barbara's message was a wall of text, dripping with desperation. "Courtney, please think about the family. Shane's struggling, and you're tearing us apart." I stared at the words, my chest tight with a familiar ache. She'd always shielded Shane, no matter how low he sank. And now she was begging me to fix his mess. I remembered her sneaking him my spare key, her blind loyalty fueling his recklessness. I didn't reply. Instead, I archived the message, my fingers steady. Responding would only drag me back into their cycle of guilt and manipulation. I'd spent years trying to please her, but I was done carrying their weight. Silence was my answer, and it felt like power. 3 months later, my Reno apartment felt like a sanctuary. The chaos of Shane's threats and Mom's pleading had faded into a distant hum, replaced by a calm I hadn't known in years. My phone no longer buzzed with their demands. I'd blocked their numbers and hadn't heard a peep since. My mornings started with coffee on my balcony, the Nevada sun warming my face as I focused on work and my own life. The security system I'd installed gave me peace of mind, its alert silent now that Shane's attempts to barge in were a thing of the past. I'd carved out a space that was mine alone, free from the weight of their expectations. Tara texted me one evening with an update. Shane had scraped together enough cash to buy a rundown house on the edge of Reno, a far cry from the dream home he'd bragged about. She said it was a fixer-upper with peeling paint and a leaky roof, bought at a discount because no bank would touch his loan application. His credit, still wrecked from years of dodged bills, had locked him out of any decent mortgage. Tara heard he'd been borrowing money from sketchy lenders just to cover the down payment, sinking himself deeper into debt. I shook my head, picturing him in that crumbling house, chasing a fantasy he couldn't afford. "He's in over his head," Tara wrote. I replied, "Sounds like Shane." It wasn't my problem anymore, and that realization felt like a weight lifted. A few days later, I got a message from my Uncle Floyd, a gruff but kind man who'd stayed out of the family drama until now. "You did the right thing, kid," he wrote. Shane needed to face reality, and Barbara's got to stop babying him. His words hit me hard, a rare validation from someone who'd seen the whole mess unfold. Floyd said he'd run into Shane at a gas station, looking worn out, muttering about how nobody gets it. I smiled at the thought. Shane's charm was wearing thin, even with the family. I texted back, "Thanks, Floyd. Appreciate it." His support, simple as it was, reinforced what I'd fought for, my right to say no, to protect my own life. Looking back, I learned a hard truth. Setting boundaries with toxic family isn't just okay, it's necessary, even if it hurts. Shane's demands and Mom's guilt trips had drained me for years, pulling me into their chaos. Cutting them off wasn't easy. It came with sleepless nights and moments of doubt, wondering if I'd been too harsh. But every step, locking my accounts, selling the apartment, exposing Shane's lies, built a wall between their dysfunction and my peace. I realized I wasn't responsible for fixing their problems, no matter how much they tried to make me feel otherwise. That lesson, painful as it was, gave me a strength I didn't know I had. I'd chosen myself, and I'd do it again. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you for sticking with me through the mess. It's been a wild ride, and I hope it's shown you that you can stand up to family pressure too. Share your thoughts below. What would you have done in my shoes? Your support means a lot.